famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
My government is cracking at the seams. Nearly 50 people killed for nothing. Your buddies in the Kremlin would have loved that. Would the Americans ever become civilized?
Night Probe, Episode 3. What's so civil about war anyways?
And since none of my children are home right now, boy, are they sometimes. My daughter focuses on math and science, so she has what she thinks are really clever tricks to circumvent actually doing English reading and really paying attention and writing the essay. So she'll just put in, it's religious imagery or it's religious symbolism. She thinks that's the catch-all. She says that, she's good. But she puts every religion, every fairy tale into one bucket. It's just all the same thing. So she's reading Elie Wiesel's book about being in Auschwitz.
Okay.
Elie Wiesel wrote a lot of things. I think it's Night. It might just be called Night. Whatever. She's writing in an essay. Oh yeah, this is just this poem or this section here. This is about Jesus. Or I'm like, kid, her teacher thought it was the most hilarious thing. You've been coasting for too long. Mr. Wiesel was not thinking about Jesus at any point.
No, I don't think he... Is your daughter getting her homework written by ChatGPT right now? Because that might be something it comes up with.
No, she just has no patience for... When she has to focus on a chemistry exam or a math exam, the humanities go by the wayside.
Yeah, we don't need those.
So maybe there is ChatGPT. If so, kudos. But she really just doesn't comprehend that religion is these people do this thing, not that thing. And these people do C and D, but never A or B.
Religions, they're all basically the same.
Have you thought about one of the other major religions? They're all pretty much the same.
I love that line.
The Simpsons, I don't know if it's just because I like Dana Gould humor so much, because he's all over The Simpsons, and he's just dialed in. He's specifically my type of humor, but they're just brilliant.
It's grounded yet zany.
Why does it have to be zany?
And I'm the first person to say that.
Simpsons good? Interesting if true. And my cat is walking across my desk right now.
Tickle looks magnificent today. I've got to say, that is fluffy.
Yeah, that's probably all the static. Now she's looking for a different laptop. Where are you going? And she's back. Okay.
Sorry I couldn't record this weekend. Friday night, I had to wait in a car, as parents often do. My kid was in a tennis thing at a sportsplex, so it's an hour and a half. I'm waiting in the car. I felt fantastic. By the time I got home, I'm like, felt hurts a little bit. Saturday morning, I was certain death was imminent.
One of those.
And I was like, no, I'll rally. I'll get better. But it was 103 Saturday night. I'm like, no, I will get better. What a weird dream about Warren Zevon. But I'm sorry, listeners. I don't have an immune system. I can't buy one. I've tried.
Yeah, that sounds like my house.
We should, do an intro.
Yes. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, the only Clive Cussler podcast that I am recording on my lunch break from work. Because let's be honest, I like this more than work. I'm your co-host Topper. Over there is my co-host Nancy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, especially everyone in New Zealand. Thank you.
Yes.
You balloons. I love each one of you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Let me just pull up what the exact numbers were there. I got a random email in the old inbox at cusslerhustlers@gmail.com, which you can email if you feel so inclined for some reason. Cussler Hustlers has good performance in Apple Podcasts in New Zealand, where we are number 53 in arts and number 19 in books. Yippee! Top 20 book podcast in New Zealand. My brain cannot reconcile this fact.
Did you have that on your tarot card?
No, but I think this now slightly increases the chance that we can get Guy Montgomery on the show, even if he's never heard of this show, or read Clive Cussler, or even has any idea what he's doing here. I just think it'd be funny. because he does every podcast.
And this will sound really silly. In moving here, I did not anticipate the sheer number of people who would have American accents. I mean...
That's fantastic. Why not?
I'll contact his agent.
And so, indeed, welcome everyone. It's good to see you again. It's been a long time, seemingly, since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, week and a half.
Oh, and we left off at a Heidi cliffhanger.
Yes, we ended at chapter 15, where old man James Bond was recruited for one last job. And really, chapter 16 is still old man James Bond being recruited for one last job.
We get some time with him in the airport, getting reshuffled and reassigned, like admin stuff, like we just did right now, but only for spies.
Yeah, it seems like a lot happens in this chapter, but it's basically just a walk and talk with him and Burton Angus, who keeps coming back. As it turns out, he also, I guess, works for British intelligence, but he's just like a guy who lives in America. He's worked his way into the government. He's just like information gathering.
This book's Joe Don Baker?
Maybe?
Timely reference. I know.
I was going to say, was he a spy?
No, he was the American counterpart to James Bond in all the movies. Not all of them.
Oh, God, right. For the Brosnan years. That's right. He was Felix. Oh, no, wait. No, he wasn't Felix. But every time I hear Joe Don Baker, again, because of how much Mystery Science Theater 3000 I watched over Christmas, I just want to say Mitchell. Okay, now the cat is blocking the only part of the screen with his name. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's Jack Wade, not Felix.
Not enough people named Felix. Let's go with Felix. But yeah, he was. They're just not as cool as the regular James Bond. But this James Bond, geriatric style, he's in the 60s where he's sleek. He's not fat. Let's remind everyone, he's not fat.
He's pretty sure he still has most of his reflexes. And most of this chapter is just to show off that he still has all the brain skills. Because after they've been walking through the airport, because he has to immediately get on a flight to Los Angeles to where Heidi is being laid over for a couple of days. Our James Bond, Brian Shaw, is like, so you know we're being followed, right? By 3 people. That one over there, that one over there, and that one over there. And Burton's like, what? Really? What the fuck are you talking about? And Shaw's just like, kids these days, they don't know how to spy.
He basically was like, millennials. Am I right?
Get off my lawn.
And it was just as obnoxious. You have to stop putting catnip on your keyboard during the podcast sessions.
The catnip rug is over there. This cat will lay on her back and just trip balls on the catnip rug over there. But she sleeps here.
And why is it acceptable? Because catnip has been around forever, right? But that was never in the war on drugs here in the U.S. Nancy Reagan was never like, let's get the cats off drugs. It's the only animal we get high on a regular basis that's just, it's terrible. Put in their toys. We put the drugs in the cat toys.
All those drugs are okay as long as watching them be high makes us laugh.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way. Now that you put it that way. That's very wholesome. But anyway, the way Shaw was described in this chapter, I was doing neither of those things. I was recovering from a head injury. I was watching TV with the guy who was in Children of Men. What's his name? Clive Owen.
Yes. You got one. Yay.
Finally got one. I was like, I saw a show, and the throwaway line was the main character's password for his Wi-Fi was Diane Wiest 03. Diane Wiest was the mom in The Lost Boys.
Oh, sweet.
And I was like, this was the thing I was watching was shot in 2023, and they made a Diane Wiest reference. That's all. I felt like you with the Ellis reference. I was like, I have a brain cell. Yay, me! I can finally remember something. Nothing else. My children's names, forget it.
We were talking Lost Boys the other night. I forget exactly how it came up, but we got talking about Kiefer Sutherland. Because my oldest kid was explaining who he was in Canada. Like, he's not just an actor. He's related to the person who was voted the greatest Canadian, Tommy Douglas.
I met his father once when I was working at Pottery Barn, Donald Sutherland.
Oh, nice. Also related to Tommy Douglas. Yes.
So sexy. It's like an emergency.
I can kind of see that, yeah. He's got the vibe. He's got the voice. He's like really tall for Hollywood.
Yeah, he's very tall.
He has gravitas. We're all very tall up here in Canada. But my kids didn't know who Kiefer Sutherland was. And I'm like, okay, you have to know him from The Lost Boys. And my younger two kids look at me and go, we've never seen The Lost Boys. My youngest has Lost Boys Vans, the shoes. They are Lost Boys branded shoes with all the characters on them and in them. Has never seen The Lost Boys.
Did your kid think it was a Peter Pan thing?
He knows what The Lost Boys is, and I'm sure he's going to see it eventually. He just thought, yeah, vampire shoes. Because we were at the Vans outlet mall in Vancouver, where they have like one pair of every Vans that have ever existed. Like every TV show you can think of, there's a pair of branded Vans in that store.
That's so awesome.
He's like, oh, Lost Boys. I like vampires. I'm a weird goth emo kid. Have you ever seen the movie? No? I'll get to it.
It's more like a music video. There's really, if you watch it now, there's barely a story.
Yeah.
It's kind of people looking sullen, but gorgeous. A lot of hair. That guy with the saxophone.
I was about to say the guy with the saxophone.
That boardwalk thing that really cemented what a boardwalk is supposed to be in my head.
Yes, definitely. It had both Corys.
Yes. The outfits for the Corys, the Corey Haim, each scene he is in an exceptional outfit. That is very over the top, like Hugh Hefner meets Liberace.
Brand new 80s fit.
And it's never addressed.
That movie is all style. And any substance, I think, was accidental, but they just ran with it.
I remember it having like a story, like it. Watching it in the time, it was coherent. Watching it now, you're like, what was in the water? We were just all being poisoned, clearly. There was a vitamin deficiency.
I'm pretty sure the entire movie used vampires as a metaphor for drugs, because they moved to the big city in California, and these kids are lured in by the cool kids who are self-destructive. They're lured in by the drugs, and the one brother has to save his other brother from the drugs. Maybe they thought it made sense. It was a very strange film.
Probably also on a lot of drugs.
Oh, God, yes. Anyway, we've only got one chapter in this book so far in this episode, so...
Okay, Sean looks hot. He looks like Clive Owen. He's written in his mid-60s, but back when the 60s, that age was like supposed to be you're in a little wheelchair or you have a walker and you have gray hair. Because 60s back in the 1980s was a very old age, seemingly.
But now this is the ass-kicking 60-year-old.
Yeah, this is like a modern 60-year-old.
And they have to reiterate that he was picked because of his success with the ladies.
Which is a skill?
Mm-hmm. Donald Sutherland had it, apparently.
Presume he just doesn't go up and slap women? This is not the character offensive? His skill set?
The Sean Connery Bond, yes.
Oh, God. I get what you did there. Sean Connery, listeners, like to teach his women a lesson or two.
Both in the Bond films and a lot more out of them.
Yes, he famously told Barbara Walters sometimes you just have to slap a broad to shut him up.
Yep.
Wait, I'm paraphrasing, but it's the gist.
And they're just like, oh, that's Sean Connery.
Chapter 17 opens up with Henry Villain, Henri Villain, goes to the gas station, and as there is a civilian couple not too far off in the distance waiting for a bus, as Henri talks to the gas station attendant, and he goes, "Hey, good sir, give me a fill up on gas." And this is during the 70s when it's written, so there's gas shortages. But this takes place in the 80s, no gas shortages.
I think they assumed that the gas shortages would get worse, because in the context of this book, we've already established that the Middle East is going to run out of gas in 2 years. So this is like, This is the gas crunch right before Mad Max happens. And I have one major, minor, tiny, annoying issue with this part of the chapter. The gas station attendant, who by the way is Foss Glye, our terrorist.
Yes.
The gas station attendant says 5 gallons of gas is the government limit, the oil shortage being what it is. We don't know what gallons are in Canada.
My God.
Why is this gas station selling gas by the gallon? Also, one other issue, which is also minor, and have you heard that thing where Neil deGrasse Tyson will rag on movies for these very small science inaccuracies?
Yes. I don't know if he still does that, to be fair. I think he's been dragged across the internet a dozen times now for that.
So I feel this is that level of annoying, pedant, whatever. The Free Quebec Society, the FQS, would not be called the FQS, because the entire point of the society is they do not like English or English people or English Europeans or anything. So it would not be the FQS. It would be the Société Liberté du Québécois. It would be the SLQ. They would never have an English version of their name. So that's going to bug me as a Canadian.
Sorry.
Right. I understand. And I humbly apologize, but Clive, I'm going to stick up from here. He was writing for an American audience.
It's absolutely not important to the book. Exactly.
Only thing we dipped our toe in terms of metric was soda, and we had to leave it there. That's all we could do. 1 or 2 liters of soda.
A liter of cola.
A what?
A liter of cola.
That's it. And for whatever reason, you guys still do Heights in Imperial. So nobody's perfect.
I think that's just because we got it from television. Most of our TV is your TV, so...
Oh, yes. Do you know the American trope of you're allowed one phone call?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of media influencing real life? No, you're not. But they think you are, because it's been said enough times in movies and film. So don't tell anybody.
I mean, if everyone believes it, it's basically true.
That's how it works. Science.
So... Henri Villon and Fosclay are talking about the botched assassination attempt.
So I'm wondering why Fosclay had to go through such subterfuge. Why couldn't they meet at a park and feeding ducks, a spy staple? This guy has to get a whole job for this meeting?
I think there was a lot of parks in the last couple of books. In my mind's eye, I was imagining like all throughout this entire scene that the actual gas station attendant is like dead behind the cash counter or something. Like this whole thing was set up for an unnecessarily complicated meeting.
Somebody has to die. These guys need a meeting.
Yeah, Fosclay is just too badass. So Villon is mad that the FQS is going to get blamed once they figure out that it was a missile and not an accident. It also seems that because Villon is also the Minister of Internal Affairs in Canada, he'll get word of this first. And he'll try and quash it. So this guy is just like everything in the government. They start arguing, and he says that soon Canada will shatter. Everybody knows it. Why?
Yes. Quebec's only hope is communism. Will Canada shatter? It was such a heavy moment in this book that came out of nowhere. Like it's a heavy line that's doesn't have anything building up to it. Will Canada shatter? No. It's felt kind of lame.
There is more mention of it in chapter 19, where they talk about how all the provinces want to separate. And I think that is also a very fictionalized version of what happened, because the only province that's ever had any chance of separating is Quebec, and it still hasn't happened. And the only other one that's bitched about it nonstop is Alberta, because they have all the oil money. If one bad thing happens in Canada, all the provinces are just going to break off and go their own separate routes.
Because it's that easy, and people are that motivated. Maybe they were in the 80s. It was before the internet. People were more fit before the high fructose corn syrup. Villon and Glide had to have a come to Jesus moment, because Glide's like, you don't contact me, I contact you, and there will be no more problems. And Villon's like, let go of my arm? Or no, never mind, you can keep my arm. I'll just do without. He gets a little bit bruised up.
My note for that was they have a man-off, and they remark that they each admire how much the other person works out. And boy, don't they just look so similar, other than, of course, the repulsive nose that Fosclay has. So I think something happens where Fosclay takes Villon's place. They really had to point out that they look similar. They're both these giant, bald, buff dudes.
Yes, I kind of glossed over the bodybuilding part, because god damn am I traumatized by that.
But he's so greasy.
I'm like, oh, bodybuilding talk. Ugh. It just washes over me, because it's deeply, deeply interesting. Everyone do your squats. But they did go into the bodybuilding thing again, and Henry Villon he loses the man-off, Henry Villon, which man-off sounds like some kind of boating accident.
Amazing.
That I feel like I should apologize for. I was drinking at the time. I was young. I needed the money. I'm sorry about the injuries. And Villon drives away, and he yells at Glide, charge it, because Glide's like, oh, he's putting on a show for the regulars. It's $15-something, which is a huge amount of money for 1980 something for a fill-up. Huge.
For 5 gallons of gas?
I was filling up my gas tank in 1996 for $10.
Yeah.
That was for the Chevy Malibu.
It is the oil crunch. The Middle East is all out of oil. Oil all gone bye-bye.
Oil all gone. Peak oil has been reached. It's nothing from here on out.
But most of all, I remember the road warrior.
We're all doomed.
If anyone has ever waited on a Sears line in 1987 while their mom tries to chart something and they have to bring out the huge imprint machine and make a phone call, that everyone's mom is doing the same thing online and it takes 7 hours to check out, I see you.
I love the imprint machine because there is still one place in town that has one of those. And he says it's one of the last ones in the whole province.
Is it even legal?
Yeah, it is. Like, it's still officially issued by the Visa Corporation.
You bring your children over to make them look.
Yeah, I did.
Behold.
I showed them, and we talked about it for a few minutes because this guy is, he's been the archery supply dealer in town for 50 years.
Sounds illicit.
He makes arrows. He does all of his own fletching out of his own workshop. He has all these pictures of him in the 70s and 80s with awards and at the Olympics and stuff. And he has the chunk chunk machine for the credit cards. It's awesome. End of an era.
It's a heck of a paper trail, but I can't believe there's still one you can go see. Next time, take a video. Blur out the number.
I'll see what I can do.
You are an adventurous outdoor family that does wholesome things together.
Yeah.
We all go to our separate quarters and play video games.
Archery was one of the things ruined by COVID, so.
Oh.
They just never got back into it.
Well, a lot of grandmas died too, so.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of grandpas could say the same. I went far for that joke. It was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
Now I feel bad. Chapter 18, Henri Vallon eats toast.
Yes, he does. He eats toast and he gets a phone call. The gentleman on the phone says, "Am I interrupting your breakfast?" And Vallon's like, "No." He's just having a rough go of it.
Yeah, it's Superintendent McComb of the RCMP with a voice as deep as a coal pit. And this whole chapter is just the history of Max Roubaix. Because remember, this is part 1, Roubaix is Garot.
Which, they explain that Roubaix was a small man, a bit of a psychopath, killed all of one guy's chickens, beheaded them.
Yep.
Got punished for that as a small child. But these are not recent events in the book. These are in the way past. In the years gone, ye old times.
He actually does cover a lot of actual Canadian history fairly accurately because Max Roubaix, he kills the chickens, he gets out, he moves on to horses, then he moves on to homeless people in Moose Jaw, Alberta, which is amazing because there is no Moose Jaw, Alberta. So he's gotten some basic geography wrong. Moose Jaw's in Saskatchewan.
That's feels like Canadian racist. It's just assuming you guys have a moose jaw everywhere.
Hey, fuck you, buddy!
But then Roubaix, he joined forces with Louis Riel, who was a huge figure in Canada. He was a politician. He was a rebel leader. He found the province of Manitoba. He was leader of the Métis people, which are one of the 3 First Nations groups recognized in Canada.
Oh.
And he led 2 resistance movements against the government of Canada. And he waged war against Canada and then founded a province and became one of its leaders.
Man of action, truly.
But during this, Roubaix killed 13 Mounties during all the rebellions, despite being frail and having tuberculosis. But he had a razor-sharp garrote.
Yes, with lovely hand-whittled handles that resembled timber wolves.
Yes.
And it is explained that anyone, even of small stature, can be a murderer with a garrote because it's very easy.
Yep, this whole thing is just a huge metaphor for somebody weak having a stranglehold on somebody powerful. Nudge, wink, Quebec, hydropower, America.
But I do love a garrote. I feel like garrotes do not get enough appreciation, and they don't come up in fiction enough. I was just watching something on Amazon, and somebody got garroted, and it was beautifully done. I'm like, oh, you can't fight that. It was
I miss Piano Wire.
The Night Clerk on Netflix.
Oh.
One of the first scenes, somebody...
Yes, I like that.
The Night Agent.
It's, Hugh Laurie and younger, hotter Hugh Laurie. I know I've seen it.
No, different Night Agent.
Wait, what?
I saw that one.
I was thinking The Night Manager. My bad.
Oh.
The Night Manager with Hugh Laurie and younger, hotter Hugh Laurie.
But there is a lovely garroting scene.
Cool.
And it's just like, oh, and the way it's shot, the large man is going down the stairs and he gets the garrote from above and they pull, and there's just nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
It's like standing in a bear trap. If it closes, you're in a closed bear trap. There is nothing that can save you. In terms of a way to go, if any hitman ever has to do me in, I prefer that.
Wait, the bear trap or the garroting?
And I know in the U.S. we're having a bit of a quandary because we don't have any more of the killing potions for people on death row.
Oh, God.
So we're finding new and inventive ways to be
I've read about that.
absolutely dipshit crazy.
Yeah, they nitrosed a guy to death, and it took like 15 times longer than it was supposed to.
That was the second time getting put to death. I'm not standing up for that guy. That guy was an encapsulate asshole. But we're a society. What are we doing?
All I keep hearing is how dangerous fentanyl is. Can't you just like sprinkle some fentanyl on him and like all those cops, he'll just like burst into flames?
I know. I had some fentanyl in my basement. A cop 3 miles away passed away. Oh.
On the plus side, as long as it stays in your basement, they'll never arrest you.
I've never seen it for heart medicine. I'm not cool enough, and I'm too old to have ever encountered fentanyl in the wild. I've seen it for elderly people getting heart patches. Oof. It doesn't look celebratory.
From what I've read, like it's basically like it's one of the most powerful anesthetics there is. So people who are getting like major surgery can have fentanyl-based anesthetics.
Okay.
It's powerful, it's important, it's effective. It's also like the easiest bit can fucking kill you if you do it wrong.
If we need powerful drugs for like burn victims and people being sedated,
Yeah.
these things have to exist for my comfort specifically when I get into trouble. But public at large, we need to be numbed regularly. So I get why it's both illicit and
Popular.
legitimate.
Yeah. Chapter 19. Mood whiplash.
Chapter 19.
Speaking of burn victims who need medication, Chapter 19 starts with the Deputy Prime Minister Malcolm Hunt smoking a pipe in a burn ward with Prime Minister Sarvo.
My younger sister was born in the 80s, and there was in the hospital a smoking section, which my father complained about because it used to be you could smoke in the rooms, even with the oxygen tanks. This was nobody cared. They're just like, just don't light yourself on fire. Now people would pull a fire alarm. If you had any smoker, not smoking, but with a lighter in his pocket, near a hospital, he'd get tackled by Homeland Security.
There's a lot of oxygen in those things. Especially, I would imagine, in a freaking burn ward.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Malcolm Hunt.
Hunt.
Hunt! Yes.
Language.
I was about to say it's almost the Simpsons joke. I have a call from Mike Hunt.
Ah, classic joke.
Can he say that?
He's only smoking a pipe, so it's classy.
Oh, yeah.
And he lets Sarvar know that there was no way the plane accident was an accident. It was sabotage.
It wasn't just sabotage, because I wrote down that Sarvo tells him that it was a missile attack, which you'd think the deputy minister would know, rather than having it come directly from the prime minister in a hospital.
Yes, but the prime minister is doing some chicanery. He's playing funny business.
That is true, yeah. You picked up on that. I still haven't picked up that he's doing any funny business. Although it does make more sense now because this does seem a bit more like Sarvo's and freaking idiot. But they once again reiterate that they're this close to civil war in Canada. Our civil war involved 18-wheelers and honking. But I do appreciate how Clive Cussler puts this much faith in us.
And the French children of Quebec were looked down upon by Charles de Gaulle at the time. Aren't she had better things to do? Or is that just a parade? I am uncertain and unaccustomed to monarchies. So, like, if...
Oh, let me help you out with that.
So, does the French president come by regularly and inspect Quebec's school children and just frown at them? Is this like after Halifax Day?
To the best of my knowledge, France and Quebec don't have that many bonds.
Sure, it kind of is like New Orleans and France. There is Creole.
Yeah.
It kind of goes this way and that kind of goes that way, which is a very helpful hand gesture for an audio podcast.
There's a shared culture and a shared heritage and a shared history, but they definitely went their own way.
Yes. Well, it's the same with English. What do you consider
Oh, exactly.
English? Is it British English, American English, Canadian, Australian?
Us and the Brits?
Scottish?
That's a strange accent.
There's no right or wrong answer, except if you're Scottish and then you need subtitles.
Or Welsh.
That's just a made-up non-Earth language.
That's
I'm sorry
true.
if your name is Ian. It's 13 letters long. Your ancestors did something wrong.
But yeah, they talk about how Canada is on the brink of civil war. Alberta wants to leave. Ontario and BC are making rumblings. But only one of us has sold out to Moscow, the leader of the FQS. And once Quebec leaves, Russia will have a puppet state in the middle of North America. It'll be Cuba times 10.
Which is not the dunk he was going for?
Especially after this past week, the 4-hour "well, there's your problem" on Cuba happened.
Oh my God. That was a gift. Because you got that, and I kept refreshing my feed. I was like, what? What was he? Listeners, there is another podcast. It's Tangent Time. Gather around. Yay! Called There's Your Problem. It's an engineering disaster podcast. Marginally. They are just a dynamic group of people that are brilliant. I would listen to them read the phone book. So sometimes it's not always engineering strictly, but 4-hour episode dropped. And as happenstance across the internet, Topper and I both love this podcast. He didn't tell me about it. I didn't tell him about it. It's just something we're both huge fans of. And we share this in common. Go listen to it. It's fantastic.
These days, it works a lot better on the internet because the podcast does come with slides.
Yes, it is a podcast with slides, which we aspire to be someday.
Not better on the internet, duh, I'm an idiot and a boomer. It's better on YouTube where you can see the slides. Of course, all of it's on the internet. I'm like, everything's the internet now. I'm not old.
My podcast app, I think it varies because my podcast app is fine for it. It shows the slides.
Oh, nice.
Pocket Cast.
I might have to look into that then.
Glitchy for everything else.
Yeah.
Getting a whole new one is too big of a pain in the ass for me to deal with.
Yeah, same here. So, do you want to handle Chapter 20, which is the closest we've gotten to action? Well, okay, yeah, there was a missile strike, but that was like 15 chapters ago. So Chapter 20 is like actually something kind of cool happening. You look like you don't have notes for that.
I do not have notes for that, and I read it because I've almost finished the book, but it's absent. It's brain absent.
Do you want me to start it off? And I'm pretty sure it'll come back to you. All right. Chapter 20 is...
Sorry, folks. I'm on medication that makes me dory.
Oh.
What with the crushed legs, shattered ribs, and the brain damage. And the brain damage. And the brain damage.
Well, when we first started, I told you my older sister was a beauty queen, and I was going through old photos. And this is what my sister looked like when I was 10 and had crooked teeth.
Fancy.
She was beautiful. She's beautiful, but it was
glamorous.
Had somebody go through life with your sister being Miss Brooklyn. And I'm like, I'm just a troll.
I was stop.
Oh, I've grown out of it, but it was
thank God.
Just how I saw the world for a while.
I figure we can end on Chapter 20 here because it's pretty short. I can wrap it up in a couple of minutes. And that'll bring us to the end of Part 1. I think that'll be a good spot to end.
Okay.
So Chapter 20 is Henri Vallon in the control room at the James Bay hydroelectric plant. And he's arguing with the security people and Stucky and a bunch of other folks about this security test he's doing. And he's like, it's highly irregular. Why would we do this? It's only 5 seconds. Yes, but 5 seconds, why would we do this? It's crazy. And there's a lot of back and forth.
But the blackout. Yes.
And for 5 seconds, Henri Vallon cuts off power and a third of the United States goes dark. And you can just hear him like rubbing his hands and laughing maniacally.
Yes, very Monty Burns.
Then the power comes back and everyone's okay. That was just a test.
For 5 seconds. Very irregular. In America, they'd be like, shut the power down for 5 seconds? Make it an hour. Let's see what happens.
I love The Purge.
Well, let's give everyone guns first. Then they shut the power off.
An amazing scene in The Simpsons where Mr. Burns cuts the power. And 2 seconds later, people are smashing windows and there's gunfire and looting. Like everyone just stops, looks around, and just immediately goes buck nuts.
There's the new Obama movie on Netflix. People are without power for 3 days.
Yes, I've heard so much about that.
The buildings are falling over.
All the smart cars are chasing people down and killing them. The video's gone weird. Uh-oh. I think we broke the internet again, folks. So if this doesn't record, sorry. And if it does, we'll see you next week.
This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler Hustlers.